Good news today comes from the book of Luke, Luke chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If anyone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies. Do good to them and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. All right, does anybody happen to know what your voice range is? Anybody? Raise your hand if you do. I won't ask you to sing out loud. There's probably one fella in here that does. Probably you're sitting right there, I would guess. You know your voice range? How many octaves can most people sing? Any idea? 2 at the most, unless you have training. Anybody know what note this is? Middle C, right? Okay, guys, I want you to sing with me for a bit. Just la, la, la's are okay. We're going to see how low you can go. La, 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 la. That's a C below middle C. All you guys hit that okay? La. Can you go any lower? La, 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 la. Anybody get that one? Daryl? You can get that? Can you go any lower? Is that about it? 2 octaves below middle C. That is an exceptional range. You can probably go higher though, can't you? Here's middle C. No, can't go much higher. So you're a true bass, right? Most guys are probably baritone. They probably can't go that low. I can sometimes catch two octaves, but that's about it. So guys, an octave, maybe close to 2. Okay, ladies, your turn. Middle C. Can any lady hit that? Is that too low for you? Come on. Little bit of a falsetto there. That is 2 octaves. 2 octaves. That's pretty good. And probably you can't go any lower than that middle C, can you?
Oh, no, I went down.
How far did you go down?
Not as low as that. I was growling.
About a G or so, G, F, somewhere in there. Okay, so Marcy can go like 2.5, almost 3 octaves. Dane, you're at about 2, a little better than 2 octaves probably. Most people, though, the best you can get is 2 octaves if you're really stretching it, unless you really strain it. Okay, the lowest note ever sung by a male was a guy named Tim Storms. Anybody hear of this guy? You've probably seen him live before at Pierce Arrow in Branson. This guy? Not the guy you're talking about? According to Guinness Book of World Records, he hit a G7, which is 7 octaves below middle C. That is almost unattainable by anyone. That is extremely low. For those of you that are electronic gurus, that's 0.189 hertz. It takes 5 seconds for the vocal cord to oscillate for you to hear that at that that low. That is really, really low. He also has the widest range of voice by a male. The highest by a woman. A Brazilian named Georgia Brown sang a G10. That is off the piano, way up there. And in fact, scientifically speaking, it is not even a note. It is a frequency. Because you can't even classify it as a note. That's how high it is. That's some really, really big falsetto. You and I can't hit above our range. Some of you guys were not just maybe an octave or so. And you ladies got up there, a couple octaves above higher C. But really, the thing is, these notes are too high for us to attain. There's nothing we can do to sing any higher than that. That's it, folks. With training, maybe a note or two, we might catch it. But they're too high for us to attain. Now, I went through all that musical stuff just to let us know our limits when it comes to our vocal cords and our singing, because this gospel lesson, quite honestly, is too high for me to attain. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I read this about Jesus and the things that He is requiring us to do, folks, it is way up there. Way high for us. Some of you may remember this and may be familiar to you. This is in the Gospel of Luke. In Matthew, it's called the Sermon on the Mount. You know the words. You've heard the Sermon on the Mount. Well, this in Luke is Luke's version of the Sermon on the Mount, except he was on the plain. So guess what we call it? The Sermon on the Plain. I know that's a pretty basic question there. But it is a large group of Scripture in which Jesus began preaching early in His career. And He preached these moral truths to the people that would hear, thousands at a time. It is absolutely amazing to me that they didn't stone Jesus and hang Him up and kill Him right here as He preached these particular words. The reason being, He was talking to this Jewish audience in which they totally despised the Roman Empire. They were occupied by the Romans. The Romans were their enemies, and they would do anything to drive them out of their country. And then Jesus has the gall to say these words to these Jewish people that were oppressed by the Romans. Love your enemies. Do good to those that do you harm. And folks, that was a hard thing for those folks to take. It is a difficult teaching. And quite honestly, even for you and for me, we just kind of read through these words and we know them and they're all great and they're all good. For the most part, we must admit, we overlook these words. We pass them on by because we don't want to have to deal with what these words require you and I to do. They're difficult words. They're hard words. They're words that go against our nature, and folks, quite honestly, I do not want to comply. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably have to say the same thing. Sometimes revenge is good. Sometimes not doing good is good in our minds. And these words of Jesus really take it a step further. Some of you that might be familiar with these words are familiar that they're the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we like to think that Jesus is unique, that He's the guy that came up with this idea. But quite honestly, they really aren't unique words. They were known in the world and known to Jesus and known to a lot of His followers. And in fact, most religions have some type of this saying. They call it not the golden rule, but the ethic of reciprocity. Hindus have it. Buddhists have it. Most other major religions, Islam, have it. Well, Confucius in 500 BC, he said this: "Is not reciprocity such a word? What you do not want done to you, do not do to others. Did you catch those words? Did they sound similar to Jesus' words? Well, in the process of them sounding similar, I hope you caught the difference of those words. He says, do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. In other words, this ethics of reciprocity is a negative type statement, whereas Jesus turns it around on top of its head, and it is a positive thing. Don't do harm. Love. Bless. Give. Do you see the difference? In other words, Jesus says, yeah, that's a good rule. Don't do any harm to anybody, but I'm going to tell you something else. I want to tell you a different way to do it, because with God, it goes a step further. You are to take the initiative. You do good. You be the blesser. You be the giver. Don't just sit back and not do something. You do it. And folks, that's a very difficult lesson for us. Being positive in the golden rule instead of sitting on our hands and just kind of not getting in other people's business. Jesus says, get in their business in a positive way. Bless them. Give to them. Love them. Do what they don't expect. Now, folks, that comes with some problems for us. It comes with a problem. By doing that, it will cost you. And I'm not just talking money. Yeah, it will cost you some of that. You'll have to give out a little bit of your pocket and do those kind of things. But it will cost you emotionally, because there's a lot of people that don't care if you give to them. There's a lot of people that are going to take from you if you offer to give. There's a lot of people that are going to say nasty things about you because you're giving, because you're blessing, because you're being good to others. They'll get suspicious. What does that person really want from me? She must want something if they're being that nice to me. It'll cost you some emotional trauma. Yes, it certainly will. It'll cost you those things. But Jesus says these words, verse 35 and 36. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. You see, folks, Jesus has a little bigger goal than what you and I have. Oh, it's great to get ahead in life, isn't it? It's great to get what we want. It's great to live at peace with people, but Jesus says you are to do these things because God does these things. No other reason. We shouldn't be thinking about what's in it for us. You see, God, through Jesus Christ, has prepared a pattern for our lives. We'll never attain being Christ-like. But folks, that's His goal for every one of us. Every single one of us. God has set the standard so high that we can't sing that high. While we're here on this earth, it's almost virtually impossible. But He says, I want you to try. Here's the goal. The goal for you is to be godlike. And that means give and bless and do and stretch yourself beyond your vocal cords can even stretch to get that high. I'm asking you to do it. God sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. He blesses the good and the bad and the wicked all at the same time, not expecting anything in return, but doing it because that is His character. That's who He is. And because that's who He is, that's what He is requiring us to be. As difficult as that is, He doesn't let us off the hook. Verse 38. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Folks, if that doesn't hit you right here and sink way in, it should. It should. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Folks, we serve a gracious, loving God. You deserve none of the good things He's provided for you. You and I don't deserve it one even little bit. We just don't. It is nothing but His grace and His love that He has poured out upon us, that has blessed us and given us what we have. You don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. But He gave it to us anyway. What a joy. What a blessing. God has given to us. He has loved us. He has blessed us. He has poured out so many good things on us. And because He has done that, He expects us to do it to those around us. Give, He says. Give. And it will be given unto you, shaken down and pressed together. Because the measure you give will be given unto you. I've tried to sing falsetto before, and I'll tell you why. I love the Bee Gees. I know, some of you don't, but I love the Bee Gees. Whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. That's pretty good falsetto for a guy like me, isn't it? Huh? I can't go much higher. We can't go much higher than the commandments that God has given us, except by the help of Jesus Christ. My prayer today is that Jesus will help us to live up to His standard, because then we will be children of the Most High God. Amen.